Greetings, my name is Brien Foerster, and I'm living in Peru, where I do a lot of research in regards to the Inca and other cultures. My other interests include Polynesia and Bolivia and also Egypt. And so my topic today is about Sillustani, which is a series of ancient towers made out of stone located near Lake Titicaca. It's actually northwest of the northern shore of Lake Titicaca in Peru. And at this site, there are a number of round, tower-like structures, some square, called chullpa. Now, the conventional story behind them, at least the archaeological story, is that these were burial towers created by two different cultures, and they are of two different qualities. The earliest ones, supposedly, are believed to have been made by what are called the Koya people, who were a pre-Inca people living in various small groups in the area, and that they constructed these towers, which average about 4 to 5 meters maximum in height, and they are composed of rough field stone, more or less cemented together with local clay adobe, which in fact is the soil of the area. And then it is believed that the Inca culture moved into this area in probably the 14th or 15th century, and they constructed more sophisticated towers, which again are thought to have been for burial. Now, the difference between the two types of towers as regards construction is that the so-called Inca ones are much, much finer. They use no mortar whatsoever. In many cases, the stones are weighing in the tons in size, in some cases 10 or even 20 tons, and that the Inca, again, constructed these as funeral towers in this very specific site called Sillustani. However, the problem is that most academics are basing the idea that the Inca made the sophisticated towers because they believe that buildings in Cusco, all buildings in Cusco, pre-colonial Spanish, were constructed by the Inca. However, there is mounting evidence that some of the buildings in Cusco predate the Inca and were in fact made by a culture or cultures that had sophisticated high technology well beyond the capacity of the Inca, because the Inca were a Bronze Age culture, and some of the buildings in Cusco as well as at Sillustani are of very hard stone, of 6 or even 7 on what is called the Mohs scale of hardness, with 10 being the hardest stone, and that is diamond. Bronze itself is only on average between 3 and 3.5 on this Mohs scale, so hard stones such as andesite and basalt could not have been shaped in a sophisticated way by the Inca. I believe that the situation is completely backwards. I think that the most sophisticated of these chullpa towers were constructed long before the Inca, long before the Koya, by a sophisticated culture whose name we don't know for sure, but they may have been called the Pirwas or the Viracochans, who were a culture in mythology and oral traditions said to be the great teachers of South American cultures thousands of years prior to the existence of the Inca. And so that means, if this is the case, that these very sophisticated chullpa towers are the remnants of a lost, ancient, high technology civilization, and that the chullpas of poorer quality were in fact constructed much, much later, and probably by this Koya culture. Now, the fact that human remains were found in most, if not all, of the towers, or remnants of these towers, doesn't necessarily mean that the towers themselves were made for that purpose. They were, of course, used as funeral towers, but like in any part of the world, an ancient building is often recycled. And in this case, the oldest of the chullpa towers may have been recycled from an earlier use that I believe could have been energetic in nature and later became funeral structures. By energetic, what I mean is that in November of 2013, a number of sophisticated dowsers came with us to the site, and they were able to measure, or actually not measure, but they could sense the presence of subtle earth energies, as is found in ley lines and grid systems. And these ley lines actually traveled right through where the positions of these most sophisticated of the chullpa towers are standing. Therefore, it is possible that these chullpas were energy collectors of some kind, and by necessarily meaning electricity, but what I mean is that they could have used the subtle energies of the earth for some purpose or purposes. Possibly, and the most simple explanation could be a way to enhance seeds for agriculture. Even today, seeds are put into round buildings by the local people because it has been told to them by their forefathers that if you put seeds into a round structure as compared to a square structure, that the seeds become stronger and more vibrant. And so this example at Sillustani of where history might be the complete opposite of what we've been taught is nothing new. The same thing can be found in Egypt and other ancient sites on the earth where the most sophisticated of structures appear through vigorous examination by various different groups such as geologists, engineers, etc., that the oldest ones are the most sophisticated and that somehow this knowledge was lost through time. I would like to welcome you to a number of tours which are coming up in Peru and also in Egypt and Malta and Turkey. They are all located on my website, which is hiddenincatours.com. The one coming up next is a look at the lost ancient technology and spirituality of Egypt, and that begins on March 30th, 2014. Thank you very much for your interest and for listening to me.